Good number of people coming in, and I would love to start, and then as people come in, they can catch up with us. So welcome everyone. I am Dr. Erica Jayne Friedman. I welcome all pronouns, and I am the Associate Director for the Pride Center at FIU. I'm also the Interim Director for the Women's Center at FIU. On behalf of the Jewish Museum of Florida, Miami Beach Urban Studios, and the Wolfsonian, it is my pleasure to welcome you to On the Avenue Pride Month. All three of tonight's partner institutions are FIU Outposts, located in Washington Avenue's Cultural Corridor, and this event is part of a standing series called On the Avenue. This edition is also co-sponsored, of course, by us in the Pride Center at FIU, as well as Hillel at FIU. Pride Month is celebrated in June every year in commemoration of the Stonewall Rebellion that took place in June of 1969. This rebellion was led predominantly by Black and Brown, transgender, and gender nonconforming people such as Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, who were sick and tired of police raids, of gay establishments, and violence at the hands of police on the streets and in queer spaces throughout history, and especially in the decade prior. While not the first rebellion of the gay community during that era, it was the most visible one and marked by historians as the launch of the queer liberation movements that happened worldwide. In years immediately following the Stonewall Rebellion, a gay liberation march through New York City marked the rebellion and struggle for gay rights, which over the years turned into what is now known as the Pride March, and Pride celebrations are held all over the world, typically in the month of June, but also throughout the year, such as our office at FIU, which celebrates Pride in June, but also in early April in collaboration with Miami Beach Pride Parade. Pride and what Pride means to us in the LGBTQIA+ community doesn't just start and end in June. It is all year round. So as you see rainbow flags popping up at your local retail establishments and organizations, I call you all to ask this question. What is this company or organization doing for LGBTQIA+ people outside of rainbows and the month of June? Rainbow capitalism is appreciated, but not anything the LGBTQIA+ community actually ever asked for. LGBTQIA+ people need housing, safety, healthcare, respect, and so much more. Pride is not just a time to mark the fight for human rights, though. Pride is also about being unapologetically, even disruptively liberated in all that we are as queer people. It's about celebrating our diversity as a multifaceted community of vibrantly unique individual human beings. It's about accepting ourselves and each other and all our authenticity. It's about experiencing joy. And yes, that means it's also very much about sex, sexuality, romance, desire, and all those taboo things that folks are sometimes a little afraid to talk about. Our culture is all of this. Our pride is about all that makes up our queer culture. And so how about the Pride Center? What are we focusing on this month? Very quickly, this month we are focusing on disarming hate. Sadly, 5 years ago, Pride Month was tainted by the tragic Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, in which 49 angels were taken from our community. We are honoring their lives this month with a film screening of the Disarm Hate documentary, which you can watch for free with your Panther ID now through this Sunday. On Thursday this week, I will be interviewing the film's director and 2 cast members live on our Instagram at 7 p.m. You can follow us to tune in at FIU Pride Center or watch it later on our IGTV page. And then on Friday, we invite you to participate in our Pulse Vigil event honoring the 49 angels. This will be taking place at the Frost Art Museum on campus, and also live streaming on our YouTube channel, and also at go.fiu.edu/pulsevigil2021. The president of FIU, Mark B. Rosenberg, will be joining us, as well as survivors Brandon Wolf, Dr. Kim Leo, and parents of victim and FIU alum Jerry Wright, as well as the Disarm Hate executive producer, Ashley Marie Preston. So tonight, we are very excited to be featuring Wolfsonian Chief Curator, Silvia Barisione, who will put a spotlight on the creative partnership between French artists Claude Cahun and Marcel. We also have fashion expert Tyron Barrington's reflections on his industry experience, and interest in faith-based institutions. And last but not least, we have Jewish spiritual leader and activist Mason Duboff, who will relate his journey in transitioning and conclude the evening with a musical performance. Reflecting on art, fashion, and voice on the Avenue Pride Month will shed light on the contributions of historical and contemporary LGBTQIA+ cultural figures and perspectives. Throughout tonight's program, members of the audience are encouraged to post questions to the chat that I will later pose to Silvia, Tyron, and Mason near the end of the program. So welcome all, and thank you for joining us this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Silvia Barisione, Chief Curator of the Wolfsonian. Previously, she has been founding curator at the Wolfsonian in Genoa, Italy. She earned undergraduate and master's degrees in art history and German literature from the University of Genoa. Her research focuses primarily on 20th century design and material culture. She has curated or co-curated numerous exhibitions, including Under Mussolini, Decorative and Propaganda Arts of the 20s and 30s, Rebirth of Rome, Modern Dutch Design, and Deco, Luxury to Mass Market. She has written extensively in the field, contributing to and authoring many exhibition catalogs and other publications. Thank you so much, Silvia. You are welcome to join us.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to talk about this artistic partnership between Claude Cahun and Marcel Moore. I'm going to present, 1 second, prepare my PowerPoint. It takes me always a moment. And so these two French artists, I found them very interesting as a creative and also romantic partnership. Their story is very interesting. I read about Claude Cahun, who is more famous because of her artistic legacy. But my intention was also to highlight the figure of Marcel Moore, because as in many cases, when you have a collaboration of two people from a couple, there is always one who is behind the scenes and is forgotten. While in this case, I would like to point out both figures, that they were through their ingenuity, the work must be recognized through the collaboration of both of them. So as you can see, Claude Cahun was the alter ego of Lucy Schwab, and Marcel Moore of Suzanne Malherbe. They came from a middle-class intellectual families of Nantes in France. Lucy Schwab had her family had Jewish heritage, and she changed her name to Claude, which is actually in French is gender ambiguous, could be for a girl or for a boy, while Marcel Moore chose a male name. And they met when they were 15, and it was love at first sight. They were both fond of art and books, and they started to collaborate from the beginning. And the interesting thing is that this relationship was hidden to the world, because they became stepsisters. The father of Claude married Marcel's mother, and so they went to live together. But well, in the beginning, everybody thought they were just step sisters. So I was interested in their partnership, and so I started to look for their work in our collection, and I found a book by Claude Ancol, was a writer, a symbolist writer at the time, La Croisade des Enfants, the Children's Crusade, which is from 1899, and it's part of the collection, the Vase collection, which is a collection of very rare books, mostly from the Netherlands. And I couldn't find anything else except for a book that I'm going to show you soon. But first, I would like to just to show two drawings by Marcel Moore when she was just 17, even before attending the École des Beaux-Arts in Nantes. These are two fashion drawings where they show like her great hand, and also these like kind of fashion, which was much more looking at well, women wearing pants were for sure inspired at the time by like the war effort. And anyway, it was like already from her drawing, she showed a very great like a great talent from her early drawings. But what is left for like as a legacy is especially the figure of Claude Cahun, as I mentioned. Claude Cahun is famous for these portraits that she started to do in the 1920s. And they are defined as self-portraits, but it's not so correct because they were always done in collaboration with Marcel. And you can see just from these like different, like these kind of different roles that she represents in her portraits, how she could be influential to figures like Cindy Sherman, that was influenced by the work of Claude Cahun, and also Gillian Waring. You can see, for example, this is an exhibition at the National Portrait Gallery in London, where she really tries to like quotes Claude Cahun herself in her outfit as a bodybuilder. So this attention given to Cahun is not so correct, because behind her photographs there was always the presence of Marcel Moore. And this is shown, for example, in this picture which was taken by Marcel Moore, who also designed the costume for a theater piece which was made by Pierre-Albert Pirot in Paris, which was part of the experimental theater that they were attending when after growing up in Nantes, they moved to Paris in 1922. I don't know, sorry, it's stuck. And you can see how even in these two portraits, they just created the same settings and the same positions to portray themselves. So questioning their identity as artists, as women, and also as lovers, and also using in some cases the photo montage, like in this picture, which is like already from the 1930s. But what was interesting for me was to find in the Wolfsonian library this book, which is the first collaboration between Claude and Marcel. And it's a very interesting a book published in Paris in 1919, where there is the dedication to Marcel Moore from Claude, where she asserts that this is like a collaboration that belongs also to Marcel, and that her drawings in a way can improve her writings. And then there is an interesting dedication to Madame Georgette Leblanc, made by Claude in 1927, who represents one of the figures that they attended in Paris in the 1920s. Georgette Leblanc belonged to she was a French opera singer, but also belonged to all the avant-garde theater scene in Paris. And she was the wife of a man of letters, Maurice Maeterlinck, but also the sister of Maurice Leblanc, the famous creator of Arsène Lupin. So after these two interesting elements in the book, I would like to show you some of the pages which show like the combination of Claude's writings and the illustrations by Marcel that are made in a way that the book looks like a theatrical proscenium, where on one side there is the view, and on the other side the vision. So the view is the contemporary reflection of Claude in Le Croisiac, a port in Brittany, France, and on the other side a vision of a classical world from the past, usually Rome or Athens. And you can see this juxtaposition between the new and the old world with this like beautiful sign by Marcel. You can see here also this juxtaposition of these two figures, and reading this book, you just feel a sense of melancholy, futility, and uncertainty. And it ends up with these figures of women, of androgynous women, with just sleeping on the boat and in a kind of in a dreamlike world, trying to forget like the reality. So a very interesting book, published, as I said, in 1919. And after that, they moved to Paris and really became part of the avant-garde of the time, especially hanging out with the surrealist artists and poets. As you can see in this book, that unfortunately we don't have it, the Wolfsonian, avenues, which has been translated in different ways. Anyway, disavowals maybe is the best translation. And you can see the technique of the photomontage. Again, the writing is by Claude Cahun, but the photomontage are by Marcel Moore. So it's always a constant collaboration in their work. And I love this photograph at the launch of their book in 1930, when they really look more like almost as like writers from the Beat generation. So after being part of the avant-garde scene in Paris, and also joining anti-Nazi groups of intellectuals, they decide to move to the island of Jersey in Great Britain, and they just their life becomes more private. There are these photographs of them on the beach. They were also like nobody, like they were very like isolated on the island. Unfortunately, in 1940, the island was occupied by the German troops. And so they started a kind of silent resistance against the Nazi occupation. And this part of their life is very well documented in a book published just recently, last year, Paper Bullets, which tells how they created this series of notes in German, where they quoting poets or just like addressing the Nazi invader, and using cigarette papers. They put them in the pockets of the German soldiers, or in the pockets of in the cigarette pockets. And you can see one, for example, this one also very ironic. So heading against Hitler and all his followers, also with a kind of irony. But this kind of propaganda, silent propaganda, was interrupted when they were arrested by the Nazi, and they were, it was 1944, they were sentenced to death, but finally the war came to an end, so they survived the Nazi persecution. And you can see this ironic photograph of Claude Cahun in 1945 with a Nazi badge in her teeth. So unfortunately, in 1944, Claude died, and almost 20 years later, Marcel committed suicide in 1972. But to have a positive note in the end, in Paris in 2018, the mayor of Paris named a street of Montparnasse, of the neighborhood of Montparnasse, to Claude Cahun and Marcel Moore as a couple of artists and resistant. And I think this is a good sign for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Silvia. That was great. I just want to remind our audience that if you have questions, you can put them into the Q&A section. We're happy to accept any of your questions that you have, and we will ask them toward the end. Our next speaker is Tyron Barrington, representing Miami Beach Urban Studios. Tyron is a fashion industry expert. As a top model agent, he was instrumental in launching some of the world's leading models and prolific actors of our time. He has worked on TV shows such as Bravo TV's Double Exposure, I Can Make You a Supermodel, as well as Rally of the Gazelles, a documentary of female race car drivers shot in the Sahara Desert, amongst other TV projects. He is the author of The Lord is My Agent and He Only Takes 10%, and Bearing Souls in Fashion, and the recently released podcast, Dear Agent, The It Factor. Welcome to the virtual stage, Tyron.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure, and it's a hard hack to follow after Silvia, because I just learned some really great things here about Claude and Marcel, and it was really great to listen to Silvia share such amazing history lessons of two iconic people, and just to see in the 6 arrondissement that they did in Montparnasse, that they did actually name a street of them. So when I head back to Paris, maybe next week, I will definitely go and take pictures of it there. Paris is my second home, so it's really great to get a little bit of history lesson. Well, Paris is one of my other homes. My name is Tyron Barrington, and I'm a producer. I was a model agent. I started in the business while in high school. I was born in a little island called Jamaica, and was blessed to live in England because my family is also partly from there, from a multicultural family. So I've been blessed to live in many different places. I lived in England, I lived in Germany, and I live now in the United States, between the United States and Paris. So I want to share about something interesting, The Agent. I wrote a little book called The Lord is My Agent, and He Only Takes 10%. And the reason I wrote this book was because when I was an agent, I had the pleasure of working and starting the careers of some really great models who became quite famous, and or some of them are, you know, top actors at the moment in the film industry. But I used to joke around because I used to sit at the booking table and I would sometimes read my Bible or I'd read little things, but the 23rd Psalms was always something that I found fascinating. It says, "The Lord is my shepherd." And so I used to say, the Lord is my agent. I shall not want. He books me with the best models and all. And they found it a bit funny on the booking table. And so when I left the business in 2003, I decided to compile these little stories of some of the things, the crazy things in the business, but humorous, and some of them, you know, touching and stuff there. But I want to talk today about something interesting I thought, chopped. And I use the word chopped and hair, that is, chopping one's hair off. And the story I'm going to share is about two models that I used to represent and opportunities in life that sometimes we miss. I represented two models, and one was this beautiful blonde from London, and she looked like Twiggy. And a few years before that, she had actually they had cut her hair and was a bit short to look more like Twiggy, and so she had done some really great work. But then 4 years later, her career had waned and she wasn't doing much. And I was representing her at that time when her career was just faltering. And so I kept trying to get her into Vogue, get her back into Vogue. She had done Vogue 4 or 5 years before and they hadn't used her again. So I thought, you know what, I knew this photographer would be able to rebuild her career. So I kept sending Polaroids, digitals to this, Polaroids at that time, to this photographer and asking the photographer to please take a look at her. And after about a year or so, he finally decided to see her. And so he saw her and he said, you know, called back and he said, listen, we'd like to chop her hair off. We want to do a Twiggy, but a different version, more like a Mia Farrow Twiggy type of look. And for Vogue. And we were so excited because finally she was going to get a resurgence of her career. And we told her, listen, you know, this is what's going on and this is what the photographer said. And I still remember the look on her face of shock that he said that they were going to, when we told her that he would like to cut her hair off more between the short to chin length and create that Mia Farrow look. And she looked at us and said, no. And I thought, bleeding hell, you're getting this wonderful opportunity to revive your career and to say no to an opportunity. And in fact, it was for not only to appear in Vogue, but also on the cover of Vogue, which would have meant reviving her career and getting her bigger contracts like Gucci and Versace and all that sort of stuff there. And for her, it was, she did not want to cut her hair off again. And we pleaded with her and she said no. But then I thought about this other model, this model that I had early in my career when I first came to New York. And she was this African-American, she was actually from the Caribbean. And she wasn't working for a couple of years and she was new in the business and couldn't get anyone to book her. And for 2 years, I would take monies out of my pocket to give her subway fares to get around on her castings and stuff. I believed in her. And I felt, there was something there about her that you just couldn't give up on. And then the day came, the same photographer that shoots Vogue that I tried to get the Twiggy model back in with Vogue. He, at that time, I would send him pictures of this girl, Polaroids, and he ignored it. But then one day he called and he said, listen, I'm shooting the campaign for Calvin Klein. And he said, do you have any interesting Black girls that you could submit? And I said, yeah, I've got this girl I've been trying to get you to see for the last year. And I sent her a portfolio, I rushed it over. At that time, there was no computer system where you're going to email. So we had to get messenger service, messenger over a book. And he said, listen, send her over to the studio. So I sent her over to the studio. And he called back and he said, listen, I'd like to chop her hair off. And I was like, wow, sounds great. I mean, big deal. Your hair will always grow back. So I got on the phone with the girl and I said, listen, this is what he wants to do. He wants to chop your hair off. And she said, whatever he asks, I'll do. And interestingly, she went on the shoot, he chopped the hair off and made her look like Grace Jones. And the beauty of it is her career took off. She not only appeared in the Calvin Klein CK1 campaigns, but she shot Vogue. He shot her for Vogue and she shot multiple Vogues along the way. And her career just took off. She was doing every designer campaigns, shows, everything. And so today, I wanted to show the contrast of mixed opportunities. When we get opportunities to go to another level, sometimes we miss that opportunity, we miss the boat because we tend to hold on to things that sometimes, like your hair, that can grow back. In those two girls' cases, their hair, which could easily grow back. One chose the opportunity to cut her hair, and it made her a career. The other chose not to do it, and nobody heard from her again. And that comes to the point I want to make. How many times have we missed opportunities in life to go to another level, maybe move to another country, maybe leave a job, a career? I remember for me, I had the feeling in my heart that I had a missed opportunity. I've had many, many missed opportunities. I had the opportunity to leave an agency and go to another agency and become even a greater agent than I was. But I didn't do it. But I still, in my business, was known for being a really great or good agent. And I think that's the story I want to share today, is that sometimes, like my book says, the Lord is my agent and he only takes 10%. There's that instinct, that GPS instinct inside of us. And I call it God's protective system, GPS. Like if you go on in a car, you're driving and you miss the turn off, the GPS system reroutes you onto the right track. And the same with that instinct inside us that God says, you can always get back on track. And so I guess that's what I want to share. I don't know if it helps anyone, but this is my my little mini talks to everyone. Get back on track and don't forget, if you get the opportunity to cut the hair off, chop it off, and if it's going to make a difference, do so. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you, Nancy, Mason. Thank you so much, FIU.
That was beautiful, Tyron. Thank you so much. I have that visual metaphor in my head now. It's perfect. Again, I want to invite people to please ask your questions of Tyron or Silvia, or our next guest here, who is our final speaker this evening, Mason Duboff, who uses they and he pronouns. Joining us with the Jewish Museum of Florida, Miami Beach, born and raised, Mason brings ruach, which is spirit, creativity, and inclusivity wherever he goes. As a non-binary, transgender Jewish spiritual leader and activist in the community, Duboff proudly shares his story of gender exploration through a Jewish lens. In addition to serving as an individual mentor with warm and welcome arms for young people and families on an LGBTQIA plus journey, they serve as an inclusivity trainer and frequent speaker for Kashet, as well as a panelist and speaker for Jewish organizations around Miami. Welcome to the virtual stage, Mason.
Thank you so much, Erica. Gosh, thank you so much, Tyron and Silvia, for your beautiful presentations, your beautiful shares. Tyron, you already said that it would be a tough act to follow Silvia, and I just wanted to contribute that. Oh, turn up the mic. How's that? Better? Can you hear me better? I just want to add that really, I couldn't be more honored to be included in this fabulous group of individuals. So hi to everybody. I am so happy to be here with you. Before I begin, I wanted to remind everybody that anything I share today is based on my personal experience. Each individual is unique, and I'm not here to act as an expert on these topics. However, I do have a deep passion as well as lots of experience in both things gender and Judaism related. And when you combine the two, they make for quite a lovely conversation. So I figured in true educator fashion, I would start off with a small Jewish teaching. We have this blessing in Judaism. I choose to recite it every Shabbat with all of my students and their families. It's called a Asher Yatzar, and it literally translates to who formed, meaning who formed the human body. So I'm gonna take a minute, and I had told everybody that I would just be concluding with a song, but I'm gonna take a quick moment to share with you the melody that I sing for our families every week. I thank you. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am, and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofecho basar umafli la'asot. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofecho basar umafli la'asot. Thank you for my life, my body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I invite you all to take a moment to breathe. Asher Yatzar is all about gratitudes for the bodies we're in. I'm feeling so much gratitude right now. Not only to Silvia and Tyron, but to Erica, Colette, to Luna, to Susan, to Nancy, to all of you for being with us, to the Jewish Museum of Florida, Miami Beach Urban Studios, to the Wolfsonian for putting together these fabulous programs, and really for spreading the queer joy during Pride Month, and really always. My name is Mason Mason Duboff. I use they, them, and he and him pronouns, and I identify as a non-binary trans masculine individual. We'll get into what some of that means in a little bit, but in true, like I said, in true educator fashion, we're gonna spend our time today learning a little bit, not only about my personal story, but really what I hope we all end up taking away is how to be better allies, how to be more inclusive in our everyday lives, and how to learn to open up our hearts wider, really, to things that we don't know. Sound good to everybody? Great. So we begin with the Shariat Sar because it's true that we all come from beautiful and unique bodies, and we do need to do more celebrating of these bodies rather than taking them for granted or thinking less than of them. You know, this is such a crucial message that I feel necessary to send to, like I said, young people and their families, because we are all growing in a world where society holds such a heavy influence on just about everything. You've already heard that in addition to being an educator, I'm also a spiritual leader. It means that I have the privilege of leading many communities through prayer, through musical prayer, and I've been using my voice to sing for over 20-something years. It's one of my most precious tools, and it's something that I value deeply. And even for those of us who don't maybe sing for a living or use our voices to make our livings, we know how powerful our voices are and how important they are. And that will come back into my story in a little bit, how important a voice is. Now, I wanted to tell you a title that I've only recently added to my list, and that's one I'm very proud of. It's activist, and I'm going to explain how that came to be. My birthday is coming up. It's just in about 2 weeks. And if you would have told me a few years ago that in 2021 I would be invited to speak for multiple Pride events virtually, I probably would have been confused and in disbelief. Some call me a late bloomer. I feel I arrived just on time. I want to take a moment to read you just a little snippet from a post that I made on Facebook, June 23rd, 2018. This is what it read. Change is inevitable, growth is optional. It's crucial as we grow older to slow down, to take some time for ourselves, some time for self-discovery and self-reflection, some time for growth. Today on my 34th birthday, I feel proud to reintroduce myself to you all. My name is Mason, and I am transgender. I think back now, almost 3 years to the day later, and I'm just so incredibly grateful that I chose growth. And well, it was definitely scary, and there was lots of unknown, but I have to be honest, it's been one of the single most rewarding decisions of my life. Now, many people call this coming out. So I wanted to share this incredible video sent by a dear friend, rabbi friend of mine, actually. It was a video on TikTok. It's by a trans individual, and they say, so they asked me when I knew I was different, and I said, hallelujah, I was never different. But they said, but like, when did you come out? And I told them I came out only once, and it was from my mother's womb. And people still ask me, well, when did you realize? And I said, I didn't realize anything. I was normal as what I was. It was the world who thought I was different. That's powerful stuff. Being in a leadership role for so many years in this community, I had this immediate responsibility that I was unaware would come with my news of being transgender. This news prompted this domino effect of different folks from all over the community reaching out to me with their own personal stories and struggles. And, you know, some still think that trans people are taboo. And I have to be honest, if we were able to see each other right now, I would ask you all to raise your hands and tell me if you have a relationship or connection to someone who is trans. And some of you would raise your hands and maybe some of you wouldn't. But believe it or not, Even for those who may not think that they should have their hands raised, there's a good chance that you do, in fact, know somebody who feels that they identify with a gender outside of the one they were assigned at birth. Okay, I want to just break for a moment because I don't like to go into any spaces assuming that that everybody knows all of my lingo. So I want to do a very, very brief, I will call it Queer Lingo 101. And while there's a ton of language used in the LGBTQIA plus community, I'm just going to stick with some of the terms that I've used or will be using with you this afternoon. When I mention the term cisgender, I am speaking about individuals whose gender identity does correspond with the sex that they were assigned at birth. When I speak about transgender individuals, I'm speaking about those whose gender identity does not correspond with the sex that they were assigned at birth. Remember, sex and gender are completely different, and one is not indicative of the other. I also want you all to be aware of the term non-binary. I introduced myself as a non-binary trans masculine individual. I was assigned female at birth, and it wasn't until my 30s, as you've learned, that I started questioning my sexuality and my gender. And while I do identify as masculine, I don't necessarily feel completely binary, and we're going to get to that right now. Non-binary is an umbrella term for those who don't identify exclusively as either male or female, and they may choose they and them pronouns. I also want to be clear, genitalia does not define gender. The gender binary is the classification of two distinct and opposite forms of masculine and feminine. It's a somewhat rigid dichotomy. Blue versus pink, pants versus dresses, superheroes versus princesses. And this is all taught by us, by society, from the moment a baby is born. We even have gender reveal parties nowadays, planning out these babies' futures before they've even had a chance to breathe air. Lastly, I just want to touch on a word that's really loaded, and it's transition. And it's very easy for people to think of transition as something physical because that's what's most visible outwardly. And actually, that's what a lot of us have been taught. But in order to be a true ally and have a real understanding of the trans community, you should know that times have changed, terminology has changed, and there are multiple ways to transition. Some choose social transition. If you're unaware, social transition is when somebody changes their gender expression for social situations to better align with gender identity. We need to be normalizing asking each other pronouns. Cisgender allies, for those of you who identify as being cisgender, it is so important that you also offer your pronouns in all spaces. If we start to normalize these things, it will open up opportunity for those who may or may not feel comfortable sharing their pronouns, and it's paving the way. We need to remove boxes, normalize all types of gender expression, and stop stereotyping. We need to stop assuming that someone is this because of that. And I want to also touch on the difference between social transition and medical transition. Medical transition includes hormone therapy and or there are various different procedures and surgeries that trans individuals may or may not choose. And this is where my personal story comes back into play. I mentioned relying on my voice for so long. I use my voice to express myself through song, to deliver blessing and prayer, to do what makes me most happy in life. I could not imagine moving forward without medical transition. My privilege, my ability to obtain resources, my ability to transition saved my life. Now, that also was a tough decision because I knew that with medical transition would be a major change in my vocals. I did not know what would happen with my voice, with my passion, my purpose, my career. It was a lot of back and forth, and I have to tell you that in the end, if it meant losing my ability to sing, It was okay. It was something I needed to do. Now, here I am a few years later, and my voice has shifted with my hormones. And while it will never be the same as it once was, the sound that I'm producing today is my own, and I recognize it. And it makes me smile, and I'm really thankful for that. There's a quote from a Jewish queer singer-songwriter named Ilana Arian. I have a voice. My voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. 3 years into transition, and I've realized that I can do so much more with my voice than I ever was before. While I still use it to sing daily, I'm now using it in all types of special spaces, like the one I'm in right now, to spread these messages, to remind us all of how important it is to stand up for what we believe in, to fight for the rights of all people, and especially for those who can't speak for themselves, whose voices have been silenced. I recognize the privilege that I also carry with my story. I just want to mention that oftentimes I feel my white skin protects my trans body. And Judaism teaches us, B'Tselem Elohim, that we are all created in the image of God. Doesn't matter what color we are, where we come from, what size or shape, doesn't matter our gender, doesn't matter our religion, doesn't matter what we believe in. We are all created equal. I am so proud to be trans. I'm so proud to be visible. And I'm really proud to be sharing my story and normalizing the trans voice. I want you all, I want to challenge you all actually to leave here this afternoon keeping your heart open, feeling like you want to challenge the system and unlearn what we've been teaching for so long, and relearn and continue to learn and continue to educate ourselves, for our children, for everyone. And I want to leave you all with a song that I've loved since I was a kid. In fact, my mom still says that I used to know all the lyrics to one of Cyndi Lauper's albums, and I would religiously sing them in the car. So even with microphones muted and cameras off, I hope that you'll your own spaces. This is Cyndi Lauper's True Colors. You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged, oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all, and the darkness inside you can make you feel so small. But I see your true color shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, they're beautiful, like a rainbow. Show me a smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I saw you laughing. This world makes you crazy. You've taken all you can bear. You can call me up, because you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I'll see your true colors, that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, I see your true colors there shining through. I see your true colors, that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, your true colors, they're beautiful, like a rainbow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mason. That was one of my favorite songs. So that was great. If people actually don't know this, Cyndi Lauper has an organization called True Colors United, and they focus on LGBTQ homelessness. So little facts for y'all. So we're going to shift now into our Q&A portion of this event. There's a few questions that have been pushed through the Q&A box. If people want to throw their last minute questions in there, get them in. We're just going to take maybe like 10 minutes to answer these. So I'd like to call back on Tyron, Silvia, Mason to show their cameras so that we can all kind of be grouped together and have this conversation. So starting with a question that's actually directed at Silvia, there were some questions about, a few questions for you actually. Where were I guess these photos taken in 1944 when the Nazis arrested them?
So they were in the island of Jersey in Great Britain, in the English Channel. And then I've seen that, yeah, there was another question about Claude's parents were Jewish, but Maurice Schwab, who was a publisher, he died in 1928. So he was already, like he already passed away when there was this, the Second World War. And okay, so these are my answers.
That's great. There's a question for Mason. Can you please repeat the name of the Hebrew prayer you sang on Shabbat? Because they want to, I guess, share it for their own evening services.
Yes, so that is called Asher Yatzar, and I'll actually write it in the chat. And the version that I sang is by, gosh, one of my educators. He's fabulous. His name is Dan Nichols. Again, oh, you know what? I can't share that in the chat because that doesn't go to everybody, does it?
I can share it to everybody. Yeah.
Okay, great.
You
So
type it
I'll
out to me,
share
I
it,
can
and
copy
then
it.
and then Erica will share it. So yes, it's called Asher Yatzar, and I saw another question if it's available online or YouTube. I am not sure. You can get in touch with me. I want everyone to know that this is a beginning of a conversation for me. I didn't want to take up too much time in my actual allotment, but really, please feel free to add me on Facebook or reach out however you want, just to connect, whether it's to talk about gender, Judaism, being human, anything really. So thank you all so much again.
Tyron, you've mentioned the importance of faith in your life and career. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, and Mason is such an hero to me. I'm just so fascinated. I was listening to Mason and I'm just so blown away, and it so correlates from his faith and his love for God, and it just warms my heart. My faith has been really important in my career and getting me to where I'm at. You know, I know for a fact that I'm not here because of me. I'm just a vessel being used by God, I believe, to be in a career that I was blessed to be in, an amazing career that you know, so many people dream of. And you know, I kept my faith, and my faith opened doors and took me to places that I never dreamed I would. I can't even share it here, but you know, I've been in the rooms with people and places and stuff that I never thought possible. But my faith in God, my belief in God, and as I said, you know, Mason and I, we talked and you guys before about I even go to temple at times. I go to church, but I also go to temple. My faith in God is so amazing that it's why I am who I am. Does that answer it?
That's great. Another question for Silvia. They noticed that Marcel Moore chose an Irish name. Is there a story to that?
I actually have no idea. I don't know why she chose that name. Yeah, I was curious too, because it doesn't sound French at all. So I'm sorry, I can't answer. I will
That's
do some.
okay. Yeah, right. Sometimes these histories, that individuals in history, they kind of get lost to us, and their stories are incomplete. I think that's important to remember about any historical telling. So I actually have a question for everybody as kind of a closing question for today. So I want to hear from each of you. What is one action that you would like allies or people in the community to do to support their LGBTQIA+ peers during and beyond Pride Month? One action that you would like people to walk away today with, something they can do to support.
I have so many.
So you have to choose one, Mason.
I know. I feel like I've already said one that is really, really important and close to my heart, and that is sharing your pronouns, normalizing the idea of sharing pronouns, because that's the future. That is the future. The future is trans, and the future is non-binary, and so I just think that what a beautiful way to let somebody, whether they are open about their gender or sexuality or not, what a beautiful way to let someone know that you are an inclusive, safe space.
I love that. Who's next? I know it's hard coming up with one, right?
I think one of the things I would say is love. I think it's the most important thing that we can share with anyone in life. And when I say the word love, it means acceptance, it means care, it means listening, it encompasses so much. And I think we've gotten, especially in our country, we've gotten so divided and so alienated and grouped and everything, that we've got the most important thing that will carry us through life is love. And I believe God is love. I know God is love. I know that God loves us all. And I think for the communities out there needs to understand that we are human, everyone, we are all striving for the same thing, and that's love in all forms. Amen.
Yes. Love is everything, right? Love and kindness, acts of love and kindness, everybody. Sylvia?
I can just say, just being open to everybody, to any sex, race, and language and country. So I think
That's a great one, like just keeping an open mind.
Yeah.
And I would say as mine is respecting people's right to self-determination, to determine who they are for themselves, and letting people, be their authentic selves and not trying to make assumptions or determine that for them, right? Everybody's a unique individual and has the right to be who they are. So I want to end on that note and thank everybody for listening in. That is also one of the best things you can do as an ally, is listen. So you all listened wonderfully today. Thank you for your questions, and thank you again to our panelists. I also want to thank tonight's partners, the Jewish Museum of Florida, Miami Beach Urban Studios, the Wolfsonian, our co-sponsors, which is our Pride Center, as well as Hillel. And you are totally free to come to our Pulse Vigil this Friday, tune into our That's So Queer program on Thursday, watch the Disarm Hate film for free. You can find out all that information on our Instagram at FIU Pride Center. And also, please stay tuned for information about our next edition of On the Avenue via our websites and social media. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Pride Month. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.